What's up, everybody? Welcome to Packers Preview this week. We're at a little bit different time and also with a little bit different setup, as you can see, because your normal host, Wes Hodkiewicz, unfortunately under the weather, not feeling well today. I'm here running solo, and we are hoping that Wes gets well soon. And come back here, buddy. Work days are not the same without you. So this is Packers Preview, brought to you by Microsoft Surface, talking about Packers and Saints Monday Night Football at Lambeau Field coming up after the weekend. And normally we start this off talking about the injury report, but because we're kind of early in the game here, we don't actually have game statuses on players with regard to injuries. There are some that are certainly being followed and talked about on the Packers side of things. Javon Bullard not back at practice yet from the ankle injury from the Detroit game. Quay Walker not back at practice yet from his ankle injury from the Seattle game. But Jaire Alexander is back at practice once again this week. We will see how that unfolds. And Luke Musgrave continuing to practice. He has not yet been activated to the 53-man roster from injured reserve, but that remains a possibility here sometime in the next couple of weeks. On the Saints side of things, a lot of talk about Alvin Kamara probably not playing in this game. That would be a big loss for New Orleans, as he is their leading rusher and receiver. Chris Olave is back at practice. He's had a lot of injuries to deal with, star wide receiver for New Orleans. We'll see how the rest of the week unfolds for him. And it sounds like the rookie fifth-round draft pick Spencer Rattler is going to be starting at quarterback for the Saints after he came off the bench last week against Washington and almost pulled off a big comeback for New Orleans there after the Saints were down 17-0. So send in your questions. X, YouTube, and Facebook. I will handle them as best I can. The social team will get those questions, send them my way, and we will try to get rolling here. So, first question from Yazzie97 on YouTube: will Jaire play, or should we rest him for the Vikings game? I don't think there's any issue with regard to necessarily deciding whether to rest Jaire Alexander or not. It's just the Packers are waiting for him to be ready to play and ready to go. And I believe it's over the last 6 games, he's only played the 10 snaps in Chicago when that knee wasn't quite right, so he went back to the bench. He's continuing to rehab. He is practicing, which is a good sign. But just when everything is going to be all right for the green light there, it's still very much a wait-and-see situation with Alexander. So Camden McManus, no relation to Brandon, or perhaps there is a relation there, from YouTube. Hey, Mike, wondering what you want for Christmas this year. I hope I can get some cool Packers stuff this year. Well, I will say I've been doing a lot of shopping in the Packers Pro Shop, getting orders from lots of people of things that they want for Christmas and whatnot. Me personally, I just want some rest, man. These night games are wearing me out. 4 in a row. This will be the 4th one in a row. Good news, the one in Minnesota next week won't be a night game. So finally, the Packers will be back to playing in the afternoon, which is much easier on an old veteran work slug like me. Appreciate the question there. Nick from, I think this is from Facebook. Which Saints player do the Packers need to contain this game? Well, that's a really good question, because when you look at the defensive side of things for the Saints, they had 8 sacks last week against Washington quarterback Jaden Daniels. So that is something the Packers are definitely watching. Brian Brzee is the leading sack guy for New Orleans. I believe he has 7.5 sacks. They have a couple other guys with like 5.5. Cam Jordan, the 14-year veteran, he's still getting it done. He had one of those sacks last week against Washington. So those are the guys to watch on that side of the ball. Offensively, I tell you what, Marquez Valdez Scantling, who was with Buffalo earlier this season, now he's in New Orleans. He's only caught, I believe, 14 passes so far since he's been with the Saints, but 4 of those are for touchdowns, and he's averaging like 25 yards per catch. So he's added a whole new element to this Saints offense while they've been dealing with all these injuries to Kamara and to Chris Olave and these other guys I was talking about earlier. So the former Packer, Marquez Valdez Scantling, definitely a guy to keep an eye on there. Michael Zuniga, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, from YouTube says, how is Javon Bullard? What's the update? Bullard is not yet back at practice, at least as of this point on Friday morning. He left late in that Thursday night game against Detroit with an ankle injury, did not practice all of last week, missed the Seattle game, and was not practicing on Thursday when the Packers returned to the practice field. So Matt LaFleur basically said that he's week to week. So we'll just have to see what unfolds there with regard to the rookie Bullard. The Caldwell Corner on YouTube. With this team nearing the playoffs, will a deep playoff run fall on the shoulders of Jordan Love's performance or the run game? All of the above there, Mr. Caldwell or Ms. Caldwell. This Packers offense, I think, as Wes and I have talked about many, many times, is at its best when there is balance, when you have the running game to set up the play action, when you have the passing game to hopefully open up some running lanes. It's keeping that defense off balance, keeping the opponent, not being able to sell out necessarily to stop one or the other. That's when this Packers offense is at its best, and I think this Packers offense is getting really close to hitting that peak. They were darn close to that in the first half against Seattle. Didn't quite continue it in the second half, so still looking for that four-quarter game. Tiana comes in. This is from X. Says, what's your favorite thing about football? Boy, that's a really hard one to answer. I never actually played the game myself, I have to say, other than playing like flag football, college intramurals and stuff. I wasn't bad at that, but I've never strapped on pads and a helmet and stuff. Not something I ever did as a youth or in high school or anything like that. I'll be honest, I just love watching these tremendous athletes, some of the best athletes in the world, play this game at the highest level. I've been fortunate enough to be able to watch a lot of high school football and college football and NFL football, and I've seen all three of them up close, on the sidelines, right down there on the field at different times throughout my sports writing career. And I'm telling you, the speed of the NFL game, how fast this game is played with these guys at this level, it really is a treat, and you have to appreciate it. Old guy Nick on X is chiming in with, what is the best Christmas movie? It's Die Hard. There's just no debate. Die Hard is the best Christmas movie. So we're moving on. Daogre12 from YouTube. How is the football schedule adjusted for a Monday night game? Really, everything just kind of shifts back a day in a sense. I mean, what the Packers decided to do, because they came back from Seattle, flying back in the middle of the night after a Sunday night game. The plane landed at about 4 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning. Essentially, Monday was kind of just a rest and recovery day. Tuesday this week was sort of what normally a Monday would be, where the players are doing film review and whatnot. And then the players' normal day off during the week, which would be Tuesday, was actually Wednesday. And then the sequence of practices, which normally is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just get pushed to Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then you do kind of the final walkthrough on Sunday, and then you kick off the game on Monday night. So it's really just a matter of shifting everything by a day. Obviously, then everything kind of shifts back next week because you're on a short week playing on a Monday night. The Packers will be headed to Minneapolis to play the Vikings on Sunday, so things get kind of crammed in next week. The practice schedule will definitely be adjusted because with the players playing on Monday night, they're not going to go full speed practice on Wednesday, less than 48 hours after playing in a game. So next week will be yet another adjustment with the short week. So Jeff on X is asking, what is your favorite Christmas cookie? I just like the traditional ones, the sugar cookies with the frosting and, some sprinkles and stuff like that. That's all I need. That gets me through the holidays. Chase on Facebook. Will McKinney get another INT? And what are your predictions about him for this upcoming game? That's a really interesting question because, as we know, Xavier McKinney started out the season with a whole bunch of interceptions, right? But what we've seen sort of in the second half of the season now is teams aren't necessarily trying to challenge the Packers defense over the top with those long bombs, the passes that hang up in the air for like 3 or 4 seconds, because McKinney was showing early in the year that he was getting a read on those. He's able to pick those off. Those become dangerous plays. What makes this one very interesting now, though, is, as I mentioned, Marquez Valdez-Scantling is averaging 25 yards per catch for the Saints since he joined that offense. Are the Saints going to send MVS deep down the field and maybe challenge the Packers with one of those deep balls that they haven't seen for a while because of McKinney's success with the interceptions? I think that is something very interesting to look for on Monday night, because that could be a change-up as far as the way opponents go about attacking Green Bay in this one. MM1012 on YouTube asks, do you think this current Packers team is better equipped than the later Rodgers Packers for the Green Bay weather elements? I personally think this is the most balanced team we've had in a while. Very good point there. And as I talked about before, the balance of the offense really is the key. And I agree with what you said there. I think the fact that this offense is as balanced as it is helps as far as dealing with the elements and some of the colder weather. I will also say, and I say this as somebody who's getting up there, the younger your team is, the better you'll probably play in the cold, because the older players get, the more that cold can affect them. I think we saw that with Brett Favre, who was a tremendous cold weather quarterback early in his career, not so much later on. I think the same thing kind of happened with Aaron Rodgers along the way. So the fact that this Packers team is a lot younger than it was just a few years ago, I think that also helps when it comes to the weather situation. Lots of questions coming in here. This is cool. All right. Ty Stellman on Facebook. Are we going to see that rookie running back play this year? I assume you're talking about third-round draft pick Marshon Lloyd. The Packers haven't closed the door on Lloyd returning this year, but obviously he's been out for so long, and if he is able to come back and get back into practice, he's going to need a significant amount of ramp-up time to be able to play in a game again. So I would say, the chances aren't great necessarily, but the Packers aren't going to rule it out if Green Bay ends up making a deep playoff run here. Maybe there is enough time for him to come back, or if he gets back and he's available as a depth piece, you never know what might happen in the injury situation. Hopefully Josh Jacobs stays healthy, as he's been the workhorse here for the Packers. But who knows if something happens to Emmanuel Wilson or Chris Brooks, and you need another depth piece there, and that's where maybe Marshon Lloyd could come in handy. Dan Richmond on Facebook is asking, is that an Emmy behind you? Would love the story. In fact, that is an Emmy. That was an Emmy award that our video production team won for, I forget exactly which season it was, but it was for one of the Packers preview shows, Total Packers. Hats off to our whole video production team on that. That was pretty cool for them to get that. Ty Stellman again on Facebook. How are you feeling about the upcoming Vikings matchup? Not even thinking about it, because the Saints are the team right in front here. Obviously, a lot of people looking forward to that matchup with the Vikings. Let's see how the Packers do against the Saints. Let's see how the Vikings do against the Seahawks. And we'll have plenty of time next week to talk about that one. It will obviously be a big one in terms of the playoff picture and the playoff seeding and whatnot. But the way this Packers team is playing right now, I'll take them against just about anybody. Benjamin Belinsky from Facebook asked, do you see the Packers throttling back and resting starters, especially if we were to lose to the Vikings? Everybody wants to talk about the Vikings already. Look, if that's a discussion the Packers need to have come Week 18 heading into the Bears game, depending on where things are with the playoffs, then it's a discussion to have. But right now, A, the Packers haven't locked up their playoff spot. They still need one more win in order to do that. And B, there's a lot to play for in terms of positioning. Even if the Packers can't win the NFC North, seed 5, 6, or 7 in that wild card mix, you want to try to get the best position that you can. So there's still a lot to play for here, and this talk about resting starters and whatnot, that's a conversation for another day. And if the Packers are in that position, great, we'll have that conversation. Michael Zuniga from YouTube asks, Quay Walker's status, and will this Monday night be a snow game at Lambeau Field? There is potentially some snow in the forecast for Monday night, which would be really, really cool. The only thing better than a snow game at Lambeau Field is a snow night game at Lambeau Field. So, yeah, fingers crossed for that. It doesn't sound like it's going to be too cold, which is actually cool because then the fans really could enjoy the snow when it comes down because, if it's like high upper 20s or low 30s, that's not all that uncomfortable to be sitting outside, at least not for folks around here. Quay Walker's status, he has not yet returned to practice this week. Another guy just like Javon Bullard, Matt LaFleur sort of labeled him as week to week at this point. So kind of wait and see there. All right. A couple more questions here, and then we'll see where we're at. Rick Backlund on Facebook asks, is the Packer-Viking game going to be flexed into a primetime slot? The answer to that is no. The NFL has already made a flex decision with regard to a different primetime game in Week 17. The Packers game as of now against the Vikings is still at noon Central Time, but it is still possible that it could flex to the 3:25 time slot on Fox. The league would have to announce that by next Tuesday, so Christmas Eve would be the deadline for that to see if the game time for the Vikings game is going to move, but it will not be the night game because there's already been a decision made there. Let's see here. Kurt Coaster, hopefully one of those is correct, on Facebook asks, we seem to let up when we have the opponents on the ropes as happened against Seattle. Who do you feel needs to become the cheerleaders on the sidelines to keep the players hyped and not take their foot off the gas pedal? I look at it this way. I don't think the Packers took their foot off the gas against the Seattle Seahawks at all. I thought the offense was still trying to be very aggressive and was definitely trying to put the Seahawks away. They made some mistakes. Josh Jacobs unfortunately fumbled the ball. Jordan Love missed on a throw to Romeo Doubs. Jaden Reed slipped on a third down pass play that would have moved the chains, and he would have been wide open for like a 15 or 20-yard gain. Those are the mistakes that the Packers have to clean up, but I don't think it has to do with their approach when they have a lead. I think the Packers were definitely going for the throat, so to speak, against the Seahawks and trying to put them away. The execution just wasn't there, and that's what the Packers need to improve on. When they have a chance to put a team away, they have to execute and they have to do it. It's not a matter of the fact that they weren't trying or they were just trying to sit on a lead. I think if you look at the film and you look at the play calls and the way the game played out, it wasn't a matter of approach. It was just a matter of execution. So Matt on X asks, do you have a favorite snow game memory? Absolutely. The 2007 NFC divisional playoff game against the Seattle Seahawks was an all-timer of a snow game. It snowed, it felt like it was snowing pretty much start to finish in that game. Ryan Grant ended up rushing for over 200 yards after he had 2 fumbles early in the game that set up the Seahawks for 2 early touchdowns. It was like 14-0, 5 minutes into the game. And then the Packers scored on like 6 consecutive possessions, turned it into a blowout. Brett Favre was throwing snowballs, the whole deal. That was the best snow game that I've ever witnessed in person, hands down. Lorenzo on Facebook asks, what seed do you see us being in the playoffs? My best guess right now is that the Packers will be either the 5 or the 6. Hopefully, Green Bay can get this win on Monday night against New Orleans, stay ahead of Washington, and not really be in danger of falling down to the 7 seed. I think it's going to most likely either be the 5 or the 6, and it could be a battle with the Vikings there to see who ends up getting that. That being said, Minnesota is still very much in the running for the NFC North title, with that their last 2 games being against the Packers and then the Lions. So the Vikings are certainly not relegating themselves to a wild card yet. They're going after a division championship, but we'll have to see how that plays out. So, all right, looks like it's about time to wrap things up here. Monday night's game, ABC/ESPN. It will be nationally televised. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, and a reminder, Pro Bowl voting, folks. Get out there, vote for your favorite Packers players. Let's see how many can get into the Pro Bowl. Votes on X for Pro Bowl voting count double on Sunday and Monday. So again, spend some time on X Sunday, Monday. Get those votes out there for Packers Pro Bowlers. They will count double, and you will be doing your part. So with that, I think we'll call it a wrap on this solo edition of Packers Preview. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Appreciate all the questions coming in. Hopefully I got to yours. If I didn't, try us again next week, and we can complain to Wes that he didn't get to your question. All right, so with that, thanks for watching Packers Preview, brought to you by Microsoft Surface. Stay tuned to Packers.com and all of your social channels for the coverage of Monday night's game from Lambeau Field against the New Orleans Saints. Take care, everybody, and Merry Christmas.